Hello, my name is Lily Sosebee from Troop 4996, and I will be sharing my lighting design for the Phantom Toll Booth, written by Susan Nanus and based off of the book by Norton Juster. Here is my light plot, and here is my design statement. The unifying concept our director had for this show was incorporating steampunk into this incredible story. So I was able to really play with the colors you typically associate with steampunk and the colors you associate with fantasy and all of the bright colors of fantasy into the show and create something incredible. We also really focused on the original book and the hero's journey in it, and I would use different colors to show different steps of the hero's journey. And as we got closer to the climax and we approached the innermost cave, it got darker and the colors got richer, and then it exploded into the climax, and then we reached the resolution, which was this beautiful rainbow. We also drew a lot of inspiration from the book because a lot of the local elementary schools use it as curriculum, and it was a really good way for us to get them involved and get them really interested in education and how education really brightens up your world, which I also focused on in my cues. And some of them were even able to come on a field trip to our school and experience both the magic of theater and the magic of this book at once, and it was really something special. The two main settings of this full-length comedy are Milo's bedroom, which is bland and boring, and the Land of Wisdom, which is vibrant and bursting with knowledge and color. The Land of Wisdom can then be broken down into Dictionopolis and Digitopolis, the Valley of Sound, the Mountains of Ignorance, and the Castle in the Air. Dictionopolis and Digitopolis are constantly fighting with each other, and the rulers have banished rhyme and reason to the Castle in the Air. Milo is then sent on a journey from the rulers of Dictionopolis and Digitopolis to rescue the princesses and bring rhyme and reason back to the entire Land of Wisdom. The only requirement I really have for this show was to make sure the actors were lit, and even that was sacrificed sometimes for tone and mood. For this show in particular, I was able to read the book and also use it as a source of inspiration. The first thing I do after reading any show, whether it has a book or not, is make a PowerPoint, which is where I dump all of my ideas into. I strongly associate characters and locations with colors, and so that is something I heavily rely on when making my designs for a show. All of the equipment I needed to make a lighting design had already been provided to me, so I didn't have any budgetary constraints. The constraints I struggled with the most were time and the use of curtains in the show. Typically, I have full access to the stage and the cyc, but for a lot of scenes in the show, some of the curtains were closed and closed in different combinations each time, so I either didn't have access to part of the stage or the cyc. I really had to learn how light bounces off of the curtains and how it plays with them, and eventually I was actually able to use it to my benefit, especially when we get into the Mountains of Ignorance where all of the cues had to be darker and more grim. A technique I used to make exterior lighting look more natural was using amber light instead of pure white light, as pure white light isn't something you would typically see outside. I used a variety of color media in this show so that I could really differentiate all of the different locations of this show and also differentiate the different steps of the hero's journey. And using different color medias, they all have their distinct tones to them, so it was really helpful for me to be able to use all of them. Here are the two magic sheets I used for this show. The one on the left is how each instrument is organized above the stage and above the house. The one on the right is organized by type of instrument, and it's really useful when you only want your lights that can change color or you just want your regular pure white lights. For Milo's bedroom, I only used instruments that were focused on the corner of the stage Milo's bedroom sat on. I also only used amber lights to make it look very natural and boring. In the numbers mine, the upstage traveler was closed to give the scene a really cut-off feel. I then used a purple wash to mimic precious stones. In Digitopolis, numbers are what precious stones are to the regular world, so I really wanted to draw inspiration from amethysts for this scene. The Castle in the Air is quite possibly my favorite cue, and it really can only be described as cotton candy. The Castle in the Air is where Princess Rhyme and Reason are being held, and they are just too sweet for me to not use pastel purple, pinks, and blues in this cue. Thank you so much for your time and your consideration of my Thespy.